Let's Get Down to Business is presented by Bravo, the marketing arm of Ash Brokerage Corporation, the practice enhancement company. All this week, it's our series on the transformation of advisors into CFOs. And on today's show, financial wellness through investment management. And with me today is accredited investment fiduciary and CPA, Levi McMillan. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 4. Levi, I'm sitting there trying to become the CFO of for life for my client. I'm still fantasizing over our Monday show about you being 85 and still being CFO for life for your client. I want to talk about investment management, and I'm going to just go right to the jugular vein today because I hear this all the time. I always ask my client, I see what your investments you are into, and before I go one step further, I want you to take a risk tolerance test. And he goes, what's that?
Right.
I mean, out of the gun, 85 to 90% of everybody I've sat in front of always says, Steve, I've never seen one of these. So you've never taken a risk tolerance test. You've only done the recommendations of your advisor, and your advisor never found out your psychological profile for finances, especially after 2008.
Right.
Now, see, that shocks me. I could see maybe before 2008, but after that, I think we would have gotten smart about this. Right. When you're talking about investment management, how important is it to match the psychological profile of a client's risk tolerance?
It's everything. And, you know, being a CPA and in that business for a long time, when I looked at this industry, I thought it was absurd that you could invest a dime of anybody's money without truly understanding what their goals, objectives, risk tolerance, liquidity needs, and the psychology of the customer. And so we take a completely different approach. So many advisors want to lead with their great investment strategy. We first want to really understand what that client's about, what's important to them, use tools like risk management. We've got an organizer where we really dive in and we ask them life planning questions of all the different areas. Then we look at it like this. If you were going to build your dream house, okay, you've got 15 different or so subcontractors that are a part of that equation. Okay, do you pick your subcontractors first? No, you meet with the architect and you pick a builder. Then you pull in the appropriate trade. Well, that's the way we look at investments. Okay, we've got the tool chest with every possible investment out there. But first we need to understand what's this dream, what's the objective, what's the psychology, what's important to you, and then we can bring an appropriate investment strategy to the table.
When I'm thinking of risk tolerance, I'm thinking of a line I heard only about 45, 50 days ago where he said, the young man is 37 years old. He'll be retiring probably in 30 years because the new Social Security will probably bump to 67. I say probably maybe 70.
Right.
Right. And he says, because he has time on his hands, he can be aggressive. And I said, but that doesn't still address his psychological risk tolerance. It just tells me he has time. It doesn't tell me he can handle a 2008 internally.
That's right, and that's a cookie cutter approach. And we don't feel like that's appropriate because the reality is, and this is what we say to our clients, we never forget whose money it is. And we can tell you, hey, based on your age, based on your time frame, this is what you should invest your money. But if you're sleeping with one eye open, it's the wrong investment strategy. And even to go a step further, typically when we work with a married couple, we want to meet with both of them because a lot of times they have two completely different risk profiles. And so we've got to map both their risk tolerance and their psychological areas and needs together so that we can ultimately put together a plan so it's a smooth ride instead of a real choppy ride.
Well, if you had two pie portfolios, one representing the male and the female and the married, what part would they intersect to have common ground? The two circles would actually have common ground to meet.
Absolutely, and that's part of our job. Is that's job one before we come up with a recommendation is figure out how we meet in the middle per se.
I've noticed that men, when they give me their beta risk and I do the questionnaire and I get their answers, it never matches up to their investment posture.
No.
I mean, it's not even close.
No.
They're usually more conservative on paper than they are in what they've invested in. And the females generally pretty much on mark.
That's exactly right. No, that's true for the most part in what we see. And you know, the other thing is nobody can time this market consistently
that's true.
over time. And so what we found is managing the downside is much more important than always trying to get the upside. And when you meet with people, the pain of losing money far trumps the exhilaration of getting the top of the market for that particular year. And so many people, I like to lay it out like this. Let's assume you had $10,000 and you were in the market in '08 and it got clipped in half. Now you've got $5,000. What return do you have to get back to break even? So many people think, well, I lost 50%, I've got to make 50%. But the reality is you've got to make 100%. And so managing the downside, whereas let's assume you lost 20% in '08 and now that 10 is 8,000. Now you only have to get a 25% return to get back to break even. So the more the loss, the more exaggerated the gain is to get there. And so,
but the more the exaggeration, then the greater my beta risk is. I
absolutely.
have a greater risk.
So now the client is going to take even more risk than they're comfortable to get it there. So it's like a domino effect.
I've noticed that many qualified plans have just declared somewhere in this year, at the beginning of this year, that they're actually back to par at the 2008 level. Now, when I think about just that thought, right, and I'm thinking of a client trying to double down,
right,
and then doing a risk tolerance test which doesn't support his double down mentality because he's trying to catch up. And we have people in there that don't care. They're just selling him whatever aggressive growth fund there is. That to me is really the tragedy. What I like about your organization is you guys take this into account. You do the front end psychological issues way up front to make sure we have established a profile on risk tolerance, which in my view is where we need to go as an industry. I had to say it. Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to continue addressing investment management as part of our overall financial wellness strategy that can position you as the CFO of your clientele and a marketing tactic for prospecting for new clients in your community. Don't forget, you can request an investment portfolio risk management so you can do your own questionnaire right on Backroom Technician. Just hop out there on their 30-day free trial offer at brt.com/trialsignup.aspx. We'll be right back, right after the break. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back. I'm Steve Savant with Levi McMillan. And remember, you can watch all our episodes of Let's Get Down to Business, including my weekly consumer show, Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game, right out at ashbrokerage.com. Just click on the show logo right on the homepage. And just a heads up, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, which I have him here, or your legal counsel, as well as your broker-dealer compliance department if you are so FINRA licensed. Are you FINRA licensed?
Yes, sir.
Well, then happy days. I hope your broker-dealer is okay with you being here. Well, we're talking about investment management, right, and we're talking about risk tolerance. Okay, now that let's just say we have that down, and we know our goals.
Okay.
We figured out the beta risk that I can handle at my age, knowing my goals. Now, when I'm looking at investments, how deep is your team to be able to scour the market and have a good understanding to put their clients involved in whatever investment you recommend?
Well, I'm obviously biased, but I think our team is as deep as it gets. A lot of financial advisors are what I like to call managers of managers, and they don't have their own investment committee and the strength of a whole investment team integrated into their firm. They're just relying on wholesalers and different research techniques. So obviously, we have all the research, all the different tools there, but we also have a CFA on staff.
Yeah, you have a gun that takes care of this.
Absolutely, and we have an investment committee internally that meets every other week and is constantly, that's their whole job, is just to review all the investments and make sure that they're functioning and we're best of breed in every asset class.
I love that idea. You not only have a top CFA, right? But you also have a committee that every other week is looking at the positions of these investments. Have you had to make adjustments along the way?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's this. There's a whole mentality out there. I think it's the old Ron Popeil, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
Where I bought my investment,
Right.
let it roll, right?
Yes.
But really, that's counterintuitive to what you know.
Yeah, well, first of all, that's crazy from a standpoint of, because once you set it, okay, well then life happens. So if you're 20 years away from retirement, and when you get 15 years away from retirement, and 10 years and 5 years, obviously the investment strategy and the different tools you're using should be different. And so you're not just going to set it one time and wake up and everything's going to be okay. You've got to have proactive management to be able to ultimately live life and weather the different storms.
How many times do you make contact with your client on proactive management to let them know heads up or down whether they should be on the sidelines, or you're going to tell them to go to the sidelines, or whatever your features are in your recommendations?
Well, we're extremely over the top when it comes to what we call customer touches. And so we touch our clients at least 20 times a year. Now, that can be a face-to-face meeting, that can be a webinar, that can be a customer appreciation event. But in addition, we send out weekly market commentaries. So we put out every week kind of a Cliff Note version of here's the good news, the bad news, and if we're making a tactical change, we put it in print. So it's right out there. So now if we're, let's say, getting in a defensive position or an aggressive position because of some of the trends we see in the market, we actually put that in our commentary. And so it's every week. I guess you could count that as a touch.
When I think about that kind of communication, and you need that kind of communication, especially a part of your CFO management style is taking on investment strategies.
That's right.
You have to kind of be there to do that. Let's say that I'm an insurance person,
Okay.
and I'm really not really well versed in investment. I love the CFO idea. How would I be able to play with your team? I'm at least Series 6.
Right.
So I'm just thinking of people that are watching our show right now and saying, I love this all, but I'm not really good at the mutual funds, and I'm just not, I don't know how to do investment strategies.
Well, that's where we partner, and we look at the different insurance agents or whatever their discipline is that they're great at, and we come in and fill that void, and we work together as a team. Obviously, they've got a relationship with the client, and we want to help enhance that relationship so that we've got every basis covered. And so we would just work direct with that different insurance agent and help them with that phase of what they're trying to do for the client.
This is an insurance show, ultimately. I want to talk about this just for a second. Indexed Universal Life, do you like this product because of you say you like to manage downside risk? I think it manages downside risk.
When appropriate, absolutely.
When would it not be appropriate? Might as well get that on the table too.
Sure. I mean, I don't believe that you can ever look at something as a cookie cutter. And so when it wouldn't be appropriate is when the customer wasn't comfortable with it. And so, we, in any investment, whether it's a insurance product, a commodity, an ETF, whatever it may be, we really see ourselves as educators. And we believe people actually are intelligent. And if you give them the right information, the pros and cons, they can make the right decision. So we sit down with the client when it comes to an investment recommendation. And obviously insurance is an asset class as well as all the others. And we sit down and we say, here's the positives and negatives of these different products, and how it all works together is ultimately the life plan that we put together.
Well, I'm thinking of how, just using this as an example, I could buy S&P just by itself. I could buy S&P options.
Absolutely.
I could buy S&P indices in an annuity. I could buy S&P indices on a life platform. I mean, there's different ways: taxable, tax deferred,
That's right.
tax free. Same investment, just different taxation issues and maybe different risk and reward beta issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just like the investment strategy and being able to come to you if I don't have those skill sets as an advisor. It's great. Well, that's our show for today. Don't forget, you can read my online insurance news commentary, advisor blogs, and articles on Producers Web, as well as my answers to consumer questions on the Insurance Library. And remember, you can view any of our past episodes on our on-demand section located at downtobusiness.ashbrokers.com. So follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or just email steve.savant@ashbrokers.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. See you tomorrow.